GBTC continues to get hammered as over 100,000 Bitcoin has been withdrawn from the trust. Vanguard trash talks Bitcoin ETFs and continues to prevent customers from buying it. And FTX is dumping crypto. Is this the possible reason for Bitcoin's lack of positive price action? Hey, everybody, welcome back to Crypto Daily. So, a bunch of news to cover today, mostly about ETFs and, as you heard, FTX. Bitcoin at 41,800. We saw a nice little bump in the price over the past kind of 24 hours. So as you guys know, we dipped below 40K for a minute there. People got a little nervous about what was going to happen to the market. Some people were calling for 30K. You always have that in crypto. You've got people with varying viewpoints. I personally think we're going to hold this 40K level pretty well, but obviously you never know. I wouldn't fully rely on it. If you have any leveraged positions, I wouldn't be. Let me just say that I wouldn't have my liquidation price close to 40K. I would definitely put it lower because you never know what's going to happen with these markets. So first piece of news here, Grayscale, and we've been covering this the past couple of days, has been absolutely bleeding Bitcoin. So people have been withdrawing. I talked about this more in the last episode if you want to go back to it, but essentially what happened was a lot of people were able to buy cheap GBTC because of the big discount gap, over the past kind of year and a half, 2 years. So there was a big arbitrage to be made there, and a lot of people did it, and obviously now they're cashing in on that arbitrage and redeeming and obviously selling that GBTC and selling the Bitcoin and then leaving. So Grayscale had over 600,000 Bitcoin in its reserves. It's now down to 500,000 Bitcoin, so still a ton of Bitcoin, worth about $21 billion. But over the past, since January 11th, when all the ETFs got approved, they've lost over 114,000 Bitcoin out of the trust reserves. So not lost, but obviously fled. So, that's nearly $5 billion that has left GBTC. A lot of that money has actually poured into these other ETFs. So if you look at, BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK, and some of the other ETFs, they've been soaking up a lot of volume and value into their ETFs. So, some of that value is moving there. And like I said, a lot of it is just this close of the arbitrage loop and Grayscale being the kind of loser in that in terms of their treasury reserves. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure this is going to even out at some point. Will they get down to like 250,000 Bitcoin in their reserves? I don't know. Ultimately, I'd like to see, more of these ETFs hold more Bitcoin and not just any one ETF holding such a significant amount of it. So overall, I think if we see a lot of this Bitcoin shift from Grayscale into like BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK, I would be pretty happy with that outcome. So looking at all the different ETFs, the top five by volume, Grayscale still has the highest volume at 12.6 billion, and BlackRock at 4.8 billion, Fidelity at 4.2, ARK at 1.3, Bitwise at 702. So 702 million. The others are billion. So obviously still a lot of volume in Grayscale. BlackRock and Fidelity though are catching up. So that's definitely good to see. ARK has pretty significant volume as well. So like I said, I'd like to see this kind of spread across more ETFs. If you look at it as like nodes in a network almost, better to have the volume and the treasury reserves kind of spread as opposed to in like one specific name, because you never know what they're going to do. Speaking of people doing weird things, Vanguard continues to prevent their customers from buying Bitcoin spot ETFs. And in this note, they said they're doing so because Bitcoin is an immature asset class that has little history, no inherent economic value, no cash flow, and can create havoc within a portfolio. So definitely interesting that they're doing this. Ultimately, I think, my opinion is that it's a free market, and that's what I love about free markets, is that if you are a customer of Vanguard and you want to hold Bitcoin, now you can go to Fidelity and you can go buy Bitcoin. And, money and capital and users are going to leave Vanguard for other options where they can go trade Bitcoin and own Bitcoin in their portfolio. This is the key to a free market is that there are options and there's competitors. And if you don't like one, you can go to another who has the things that you want. So ultimately, I think if Vanguard continues to do this, I would love to see them actually lose some of that $7 trillion and maybe it'll go to Fidelity or BlackRock or other organizations that allow their customers to do what their customers want to do, being informed investors. So definitely going to be interesting to watch what happens with Vanguard. I think at some point they're going to, give in and cave in, as everybody does to Bitcoin eventually. So Jim Cramer tweeted a few days ago, unlikely that Bitcoin finds its footing. He tweeted that around the time when we hit like 39.5 in price. And then, within, I think, probably 24 hours, Bitcoin shot back to 42K. So the inverse Kramer index holds strong. Coinbase saw some scrutiny during the last, during the crypto winter. Obviously, all companies, all coins, everything in the market, in the crypto space took a big hit. Everything actually just in markets in general took a big hit, if you remember. But crypto got hit super hard. Coinbase got hit really hard. They had their IPO at kind of a maybe not a great time, and then obviously got hit during the bear market. But recently, people have been upgrading, their ratings. So there are some who are downgrading. I know JP Morgan downgraded the stock. And ultimately, you're going to see this two-sided action no matter what. I actually am pretty bullish on Coinbase. I think that they have been kind of at the core of the market for so long. And now that these ETFs are out, they're obviously being used by most of the ETFs as a custodian. So ultimately, Coinbase kind of wins. It's like a win-win for Coinbase across the board. Some people think that Coinbase is going to lose retail customers on buying actual Bitcoin on the exchange because now there's ETFs. But I don't think that's true. I think the average person who buys on Coinbase is probably still going to buy on Coinbase because that's where they'd rather buy the Bitcoin there, or maybe even move it off of Coinbase into a wallet of some kind, versus the type of people that are customers to these ETFs are bigger institutions, possibly pensions at some point. So I think that, the type of customer for Coinbase is still the type of customer for Coinbase. And then the ETFs just open us up to a broader market. And Coinbase benefits from both, obviously having the exchange and then having the custodial business. So ultimately, I'm pretty bullish on Coinbase as well. So I agree with the analysts upgrading it. So we've been kind of looking for the reason why crypto has not been performing super well. A lot of us were looking at the ETF saying, okay, the day the ETF comes out, Bitcoin's shooting to 60K. And we actually shot up to 50K for a minute there. But then you saw the Grayscale, over 100,000 Bitcoin getting sold out of Grayscale, $5 billion worth of volume. And then now you're also seeing FTX selling a ton of crypto, some of their Bitcoin holdings, raising cash supposedly to pay back customers. I did see this note at the end. Even so, FTX has said it doesn't expect customers will be fully repaid and that customers of FTX.com will bear a greater percentage of the losses. Dozens of FTX customers are challenging a company proposal that would peg the value of their digital assets at the time the company filed bankruptcy, meaning they'd miss out on a year-long Bitcoin rally and rebound for other tokens. So, obviously, when it comes to things like this, bankruptcy court and all these tactics that big companies will use, that's pretty terrible for the customers. FTX can essentially sit back, allow the bull market to take place, and then pay their customers pennies on the dollar. So definitely sucks for FTX customers. I was never an FTX customer. I think that at the most I had like the Blockfolio app downloaded on my phone, but I never used it to trade crypto. So ultimately, I think we're all looking for the reason why crypto isn't doing as well as we expected. I think a lot of it has to do with GBTC, and I also think some of it has to do with FTX. So we'll see what happens. Ultimately, I would love to see us just hold 40K and kind of move from there. That's my kind of price target. And I'd like to see just a grind higher from these ETFs. So we'll see what happens once, GBTC is done kind of like unloading all these ARBs. And then we also see, things like FTX stop, dumping crypto. Maybe when those things are over, we will start to see that kind of steady state upwards, which is, ideal in my opinion. That's all I got for today. Have a good weekend. See you guys later.